if it's places that aren't in your zone of genius, right? Like if you're not good in a specific area of your life, like the admin work, it doesn't make sense to spend all of your life doing admin work or taking a course on how to get better at doing your admin work, right? It's okay to outsource.
Right.
It's okay to free up your time. And so I think like those two things, because I never had a strong work ethic growing up. I think as I've gotten older, like I developed a strong work ethic because I found things that I'm actually passionate about and that I can see like, oh, if I do this, it'll have this type of impact in my life. Now I have a stronger work ethic than ever, right? So I'm much more like, hey, let me take the time to put all my work into areas that I have some strengths in and not give a fuck about the shit that I'm not good at.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
And we have a special guest with us today. We're really excited to bring him on. But before we introduce him, I want to go over some housekeeping. Just wanted to let everybody know we will be posting 2 episodes a week. Mondays and Thursdays will be the days that the episodes come out. Episodes on Monday will just be with Pat and I, and Thursdays, the episode with our weekly guest will come out. Just wanted to let everybody know. And then also, if you guys have been watching the show, enjoying the show, please tell a friend. That's how the show grows, and it's how we grow our audience. So, yeah, I'd appreciate that. So now I'd love to introduce our guest. He is a full-time real estate investor, a sand volleyball stud, a personal development junkie, the great and powerful Matt Kresko.
Welcome, sir.
That's a sick intro. I'll try to live up to that. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're happy to have you here. So, for those of you that don't know, Matt's a full-time real estate investor. So that's how Pat and I know Matt. We've gotten to know him over the last couple of years, and we have run in kind of the same circles. So, we thought he'd be a great person for us to have on, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we met about a year ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So my job is like full-time networking. I mean, just like you guys in your world, is like there's 3 ways to do whatever it is that you're doing and get clients. And you can go the direct sales route. You can cold call, you can door knock, you could do marketing, or you could do networking. I prefer the networking, and that's how I met both of you guys. Sure. So Paula introduced us.
Right.
And then did Zach introduce?
I think Zach connected us.
Was that what it is?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't remember.
Possibly.
We met at Breadco.
Yeah. We were sending messages on Instagram or something. We connected through Instagram based on, I think it was something that Zach posted about the two of us.
Yep.
Might have been one of those funny skit videos. I think it might have been the Office one we did.
The Office one, yeah.
Everybody loved.
That might have been it for sure.
I think we connected through that, and then we met up for coffee and just connected that way and kind of just stayed in touch. I mean,
we've all stayed in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've learned a lot just based on how you, like the way you follow up and the way you stay connected to people. I mean, I've used those tactics and just a quick message, like, and just repetitive with it. I've seen the videos that you've posted, and just conversations that you and I have had in the past, where, it's just, we touched base with it with Connor too, is just those connections. It's all about connections.
It is. And that's this world, especially in St. Louis, in this market where you're living in a big town or small city, however you want to look at it.
Right.
You can develop a reputation really quickly in either direction.
For sure. 100%. Yeah.
And it's just like, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like, you can go in any direction in the celebrity world, and you're connected to
somebody. Somebody did a movie with
it. It's like that here in St. Louis too. I feel like we could all stretch out our networks, and we're connected in so many different ways, other than just.
Well, shit. I mean, we just found out Matt and I went to the same high school. We didn't even know that.
Right? And
we've recently, you and I have known each other for years, and we just found out that we went to the same college. So. Just like, what the fuck?
Well, it's interesting. You say like there's only so many degrees of separation, and I believe that, right?
Yeah.
With the Kevin Bacon thing, it's 5 or whatever
5
it
degrees
is.
of Kevin Bacon.
And in St. Louis, I think it's 1.
Yeah.
And it's actually something that I use when I develop relationships with agents, because that's my bread and butter. Is working with agents who have distressed houses that want to sell in as is condition for cash offers. I'll look them up on Facebook, and I would say, I don't have the actual stats, but I would say like 49 out of 50 times we have a mutual connection. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And it even increases in the world of real estate because all the agents are connected with each other, and that's where they do all their marketing. So I'll go there to take an extra step further and get a touch. So I'll call them, I'll text them, I'll have the conversation, and then I'll send them a Facebook friend request to put a face to the name as just like another added bit of touch.
For sure. I always feel like whenever I add someone on social media, it helps me like with retention. It like puts a face with a name. I can always remember someone a lot better once I'm friends with them on social media.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, as much as we can say about social media and the things that we don't like about it, but it is a great networking tool if used correctly, you know. And for me, I mean, that's the thing is like, if there's an agent that I'm interested in meeting, then I'm going to go follow them on social media, and then I'm going to engage with them through social media on that to at least kind of develop that rapport, at least the name recognition. So when I call, it's not so much a cold call as it is, you know, hey, okay, yeah, this guy, I've been chatting with him here on social media, and it's worked well.
It's warmer.
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's 100% warmer.
Yeah.
If they see your face, they know you're a real person.
Yeah.
Especially in a world where automation, and trust me, I use automation, but where automation is so prevalent, like having a face to the name, and then a step further, knowing that you have mutual friends in this space makes them builds better rapport, right? And makes them less likely to tell you to fuck off.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, they know
he
Joe.
knows.
It's
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm not going to be a complete fucking asshole to him.
Right. Yeah. I don't want. I'm going to tell Joe that I'm an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, social media. I'd like to think of it like a tool. You know. I mean, it's if you. But I like to think of social media as a tool. But just like if it's a hammer, you can use it to build a house, or you can use it as a murder weapon. So, I mean, you can be positive or negative, whichever way you look at it.
All kinds of room for activities.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's neutral, 100%. It's neutral. It's just like money,
Right.
you know, too.
Sure.
You can use money for good. You can use money for bad.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, you're not always going to connect with every single person too. Like there's going to be times where you just don't vibe, and you have to be okay with recognizing that. But I mean, everybody I know knows you, and that's just, I guess, the energy that you give off and the personality that you have. I've yet to hear anyone say, "Oh God, Matt Kresko." Like every time I'm like, when I talk to somebody and they say they know Matt, like, "Oh my God, yeah, you know Matt too." Like it's. I'm glad that we're bringing good people onto the show and people that are positively impacting the community. You know, that's what we want to spotlight here with this show. And you've, I mean, because like I said, you just started in this a year ago.
Yeah.
And the amount of connections and the amount of people that you know, hell, I mean, you might have more connections and know more people in this business than I have. And I've been doing it for 10 years. It just goes to show your work ethic and you know, your tenacity to continue to grow and get better.
Well, I also metriced myself when I started out because I figured if I was going to do this from a networking perspective, I was going to go all in. And so like I created scorecards around how many people that I would need to talk to or how many people I would ideally meet. And it's a chemistry formula, right? Like you guys know,
numbers.
You cannot fucking meet every single person that you have a conversation with. Although I tried. I literally tried to meet everybody. I remember in like the span of a month and a little over a month, I met like 62 people like in person over that span of time. And
Damn, that's 2 a day for a whole month.
so, and I don't say that as a badge of honor, right? Because looking back on it now, it wasn't a good use of my time.
Sure.
But everything we do is a chemistry formula, right? You put a little too much of this in, you take it back out, right? It's quality versus quantity, like that whole, like, what do I need to do? I want to work a lot, but I want to work smart. So to where you were going with that, yeah, I've met a lot of people, but I think the biggest thing, my takeaway was when I started developing a scorecard for how I can provide value. So I come from a recruitment background, 9 years and 4 years I own my own company. So I've been recruiting forever, and that's all interviewing. That's all asking questions. That's all asking open-ended questions to get people talking and learn about them. And so it was easy for me to figure out where people's pain points were in life and business and whatever, mostly business. Every once in a while I'd come across a solution for somebody personally, but like I would basically mark down how many people like I was able to give something to. And that was my goal at the end of every single conversation, every coffee, every call that I had. It was like, I wanted to leave there with making an introduction or some type of give to them that could benefit them in some way. And at first I hated it because I was just like, what am I going to do for these people? Like, who am I going to connect them to? Like, what am I going to do when I don't even know the world of real estate? But I think what it forced me to do is grow the muscle becoming a valuable person,
Yeah.
right? Like get a little bit more creative to where it's like I was doing stuff and I didn't realize it helped. But then like months later, I'm getting like thank yous and stuff from somebody for being able to help that person. And that's when I realized like that's how you leverage relationships and networking, right? It's not about like knowing everybody and handing out your business card. It's about how can you actually have an impact on the person that you're meeting to where it's like you said, it's like when your name gets popped up, it's not like, oh, fuck, Matt Kresko, the guy who called me a million times. I'm sure that happens too, right? But more times than not, it's probably like, oh, cool. Like had a great conversation with him.
Right.
He connected me to like a private money lender or whatever.
Sure.
It is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I mean, what do you think, new to the real estate business in the first year, what was one of the biggest learning experiences that you had as a new are licensed real estate agent? Are you licensed real? No, just
So I guess let's tell the people
let's talk about what it is.
What
that you
exactly
do.
do you do?
Yeah. Plain and simple terms, I'm a real estate wholesaler.
Okay.
So I find off-market distressed properties and we flip them to people that are doing the fix and flips, or my company fix and flips them. I'm with Faster House, titles acquisition manager, but I'm a buyer. I also have a bit of a portfolio. I'm also going to be getting into fix and flips this year. Have a goal of getting into commercial multifamily, but right now my job is to create relationships with people shouldering industries of real estate, mostly agents, some other wholesalers, investors. I work with landscaping companies. I work with junk removal. I've worked senior communities. Like I've literally gone into senior communities and worked happy hours because I know that they're going to come across people that need to sell their house as is when they move into those communities.
What's that party like?
That's smart.
It's fun. It's a lot more fun. I get hit on by 80-year-olds. It's not. Hey, I'll take a compliment any way I can get it. Yes. But that's what I do. Yeah. Did I answer that?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Did I answer all that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Now that we people understand what it is that you do, what has been your biggest learning experience from this past year and getting into this and growing this?
Outside of like, I think it probably goes back. There's a couple. Can I say a couple of things?
Sure. Absolutely. Go
100%.
for it.
Just to
Floor is
parlay
yours.
off the value thing. And I think Hermosi says this, or one of the bigger influencers, it's the person that provides the most value wins, period. And I think that is like, if you can really understand that and if you can really embody that, then you're going to go a long way. Like if your ultimate goal is how do I provide as much value to these people in this given situation through this transaction, you're going to win. And you're going to, I think you're going to be doing better than 90%, 95%, maybe 99% of the competition who just wants to get by with the basics. The second piece is scorecards for me. Like we are all athletes in some capacity, right? There's like a winner and a loser. We're used to that. And sometimes that drives us. So for me, I went my first 7 months without a deal. I sold my, so just a background, like I sold my business. The idea was I sold it to my business partner. I was going to get some, like a revenue share of the company for over the next 2 years to ramp up in real estate. And the business had to fold within like 2 months of that. A bunch of shitty things happened. Not my fault, not his fault, but it was like, I was out of recruitment. I didn't have a paycheck coming from that. I was in real estate. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So
no money coming in there either.
no
right?
money coming in. Well, luckily, being in real estate, I was living in a 2,200 square foot townhome, 3-bed, 2.5 bath by myself. And through real estate, I was like, okay, I don't fucking need this, right? I can go back into my duplex and basically live rent free, rent this out to minimize expenses. But yeah, 7 months without a paycheck fucking sucked. But it was one of the best experiences I ever went through because of what I had to learn through that process. But I developed a scorecard. It's like I could not control how many houses that I was going to buy. Buying houses or, selling a home for somebody, right? Or getting a loan from somebody is a lagging indicator, right? You're putting in work months ahead of time to foster that result.
Yeah, you're always like 90 days out. Is
Yep.
what I always say, roughly.
And so for me, it was, okay, well, what are the things that I can do on a day-to-day basis to feel like a winner, right? Because it's hard to feel like a winner when you're not putting points on the board. And for us, it's loans, it's closings, it's purchases, right? And so the biggest thing over the past year was definitely like, what are the things in my day-to-day that I can do and that are 100% in my control that are going to net the result of buying a home? And then I got really nerdy on it. Like I developed
That's awesome.
Excel spreadsheet. I score myself from 1 to 100% every week. Then I started doing it for finances. Then I started doing it for fitness. Then I started, incorporating it in other areas of my life. But I think starting out over the first year, that was it. Like, try to hang on to something that you can control and rate yourself on your performance and not necessarily the outcome.
No, that's a great
awesome.
point. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So, and then volleyball. Let's dive into that. Let's dive into the personal stuff too.
I know you're willing to stay in volleyball.
Yeah.
I know you do that a lot.
Well, can I flip it real quick? Ask you guys a question?
Go for it.
Because I'm just curious. So you guys have been in real estate longer than I have, but ever since July of 2022, the whole landscape has changed, right? So what are you guys doing? Because obviously both of you guys are doing well, right? Mm-hmm. What are you guys doing to stay ahead of the curve? Because both of your industries are falling out at a more rapid rate than ever. Loan officers, real estate agents, they're dropping like flies right now. So what are you guys doing not only to tread water, but to actually succeed there?
I'll let you start.
Yeah.
Because
Well, what it all comes down to me is, it's basically everything, a lot of the stuff you've already talked about, but it all comes down to building those relationships, and building relationships and networking with people. That on top of, which I think kind of goes into that, is being very active on social media. I don't get a ton of new business or let me rephrase that. I don't get a ton of random people that I don't know reaching out to me, but I think I stay top of mind with like all the people that I already know, love, and trust me, because I'm showing up in their feed every day, or on their story or whatever.
We sure do try.
Yeah, we sure do try.
Yeah.
But I think that's been a huge thing for me, and really just focusing on those relationships, following up with my people. I've got a little over 150 like closed transactions in the last 4 years, and so I just follow up with those people regularly. And I think staying on top of those people, they end up bringing me their friends, family, and I think there's something about just staying active and actively like prospecting too. That's another thing. I've got VAs calling for me. I've got most of it I would say is my sphere of influence and my social media. That's what I think most of my business comes from.
Can I dive into that a little more?
For sure.
So the social media side, you and Murph have been working together how long on that?
February, right?
Yeah, a year in February. We started doing like little one-off things with jiu-jitsu a little earlier than that, but we started regularly working together in February of last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what is, have you had people from social media reach out?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any numbers? Not that like you need to. I just have there's a loan officer guy that like is crazy about his numbers, and he's like literally 25% of my business, or no, I think 30% of his business came from social media.
I'd have to go back and look at it because it's a hard thing to quantify, because I've had people that'll text me that like, I saw you on social, and I have my phone number all over that. And then I do have random people that'll like hit me up in my DMs, or people that'll randomly follow me, and then I start the conversation. If they followed me, then I'll DM them.
Yep.
And it's like, well, social media, it's there to be social, right? So you actually need to be actively going out and talking to people. Like if you get a random follow and I'm like, oh, we're in, just kind of like what we were talking about, it's a small city. Oh, they're in that same kind of group of people. Like, oh, I know them. I got something to talk about with them. And so I'll just reach out to them and just kind of hit them up in their DMs and start a conversation.
I feel like you're talking about my dating life when I was single. It's a social media website. You have to be social. You have to slide into some DMs, right? It's like,
it's kind of the same thing.
It's a numbers game. Oh yeah, 100% it is. And you're so right. I feel like, because I don't do the social, but it's on my rocks. Like I'm going to this year.
We can talk after this.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. That's why you guys invited me on. There's some pyramid scheme here. Yeah.
No, we're straight to consumer, bro. I don't set up no vendors beneath me.
I love that though, dude. I love what you guys are doing. I think the content you guys put out is sick. I think the quality is amazing. But you're right. It's so hard to quantify social media starting out, because it's like, okay, what if somebody has seen your social media content because of the algorithm, because of whatever, right? And then they see you out at a coffee shop or at a networking event or whatever the case might be. And then they're just more inclined to approach you because of they know your brand, and they might not even mention that. Right. But it's like, it's tough to quantify, like you said, but it is, I feel like, the one area of like lead generation that has an infinite return. possibility.
100%. Because I feel like people will. I mean, I have had random people come up to me before, or I'll meet someone random and be like, "Oh, I think I've seen you online." You know, it's like, well, shit. You know, like I've never thought I would get to that point, and my following is not big by any means. But
You're the guy who says you know a lot.
Yeah. But it's been great. I mean, it's been the biggest like driver of my business, I think, over the last year.
If I could speak to that real quick, because like my social media authority comes from like coaching salespeople with First Form. And it was the idea of like, people would think probably whenever you become like a real estate agent, people are just gonna be flocking to work with you and sell homes. A lot of people think the minute you start marketing on social media is when all the strangers come in from the algorithm. But the unfortunate truth, it's not the unfortunate truth, it's just the way it is that you have to build that trust with your audience. And then the more they advertise you, the more that they're willing to actually come to you in person and maybe not even talk about your social media, but it is because you're advertising yourself in a valuable way that they want to be a person who comes and talks to you face to face in person. That's the trust that's established with it. But very few times is it, I get a random DM from someone who wants to buy supplements or wants to buy a house or needs a mortgage that day. It's usually a little bit more covert from my experience.
Yeah, and it takes time.
Right? For sure.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing that. I mean, I've been posting consistently for a couple of years now, but I mean, using Murph, we've been posting a lot more over the last year. And I mean, I've grown a little bit, but I think it's going to only continue to grow. I mean, I don't even remember where I was when we started.
I think what's worth mentioning is that when it comes to someone seeing something like an advertisement, it's going to take them like 20 to 50 times of seeing it on repeat to believe that the source is credible. So what we've basically done is just hammered down on, let's figure out the lane and let's make sure that we're preaching value. And whether you're teaching someone something, which is the most valuable, making them laugh or smile, or trying to impact them with some inspiration, consistently market yourself. And he's been so on the ball about that.
You have.
And I think you said it best in the last podcast. You're a marketing company that does real estate. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, your job is to go out there and bring that client in and bring that business in and figure out a way to get them into a home. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, you've done a hell of a job of it over the last, since we started working together and since you got in the business.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the fastest trajectory I've seen of an agent.
Thank you.
And in that amount of time. So just, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, and one other thing I think that social media does is, I mean, it's hard to quantify this too, but I think it's just kind of like it's like a business card almost, right. Like I'll have people, it's like, I'll look up people before if I heard about somebody or I hear somebody, it's one of the first things I do is I look them up on social media. Are they active? Oh, this person hasn't posted in 3 years. Like they're not very active on this. And this is a big driver of business for a lot of people. So, I mean, I feel like sometimes people will, look at my social media and feel like they kind of got an idea of who I am, and who, if I'm someone that they would vibe with working with. So
that, and it's hard to hide your personality. Mm-hmm. You
well, especially on this now,
right? Especially on video, you exactly there. It's going to pick
There's
up.
No faking it.
There is no faking it. No, you are who you are, and the camera's going to pick up on that, and people are going to be able to see the type of person that you are. And I mean, like I said, you're a great person, one of the best people that I know and I've gotten to work with. And like I said, I'm glad that we're having the people that we are on this show because they're all like us. And that's the type of people that we want to promote and have on the show. So,
and I think, going off of that and talking about being yourself, it's like, I do love that concept of like, hey, pick 2 to 4 lanes of what you want to talk about, right? Don't just talk about real estate and don't just always come in with asks, right? Talk about things that are going to bring value to people. And I think you guys do a good job of that. I think you have I haven't seen as much, but I used to love, I don't know if you're not on my algorithm anymore, but I used to love like you sitting in front of your desk content that you put out. Cause that's how I knew you before we ended up meeting in person.
Yeah. It's been more of that has been direct to agents. It's just because of the different things that I've been doing with Zach and this, and then a couple other agents that I work with that do video has been doing more of that. So when the time that I am back at the house, I feel like there's enough of that content or enough of my content out there, but that isn't a goal of mine is to get back to doing at least one of those videos a week.
Yeah.
I do a video every Friday that I send out to about 70 agents that I work with. And it's like a market recap, just kind of going over it, but it's tailored to the agents versus as a consumer tailored to the consumer. Yep. And it's something that I feel like I could pivot and make towards the consumer and post. So.
I love the idea of doing it towards the agents, right? Because you and I have like the same job description.
Right, exactly.
Like we go after agents. My content's going to be around agents.
Right.
Because I would much rather Like I can get a lot more deals
Exactly.
through an agent than I can that comes across so many different people looking to sell their home,
Right.
as opposed to one individual who might have a distressed property.
Right.
Like
Sure.
there's a like I said, it's like a compounding effect for
Yeah.
that stuff. But I also loved, like, I don't feel like as many loan officers do social as agents. And I feel like
I can only think of like 3 right now off the top of my head.
you're the only one I can call out by name. Like there's might be one other person that I follow. My buddy Matt Dickens does social.
Yeah,
that's who
He's
I was.
great. He's great at. He's the one that does like 30% of his deals came through social.
Oh,
Really?
that's awesome.
Yes,
great.
and he only posts 3 times a week, one in each category. It's like golf, it's something else, and then it's obviously
Mortgage related.
mortgage.
Right.
But you two are the only people that I can think of that does it on a pretty consistent basis. I loved how in the numbers that you were able to get though on some of your stuff, and I feel like the detail that you provide on those and like the actual like it's below surface level knowledge,
Right.
and you're not afraid to get a little bit nerdy about it,
Yeah.
because the people that are going to want that are going to love that.
Right.
Right. Well, like your what's the payment
What's the
episode
payment?
are,
Yep.
are awesome because it really will tell a consumer, all right, what does a payment look like on a $350,000 house right now?
And you know what's crazy is like I've done it a few times for years,
Mhm.
and I've reached out to agents just as a way of connecting with new agents.
Yeah.
and
It's a free advertisement.
And you would be surprised at how I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm like, why would you not?
Right.
Well, you know, like it's a whole nother. I mean, I'm not saying I have a huge following or anything, but
yeah,
it's
So
another
what's it
way
gonna
to.
hurt?
It's right, exactly. What's it going to hurt that I'm posting this out there?
Right.
You know, it might reach somebody that wasn't thinking about buying a house and realize, oh man, that payment's more affordable than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Because that's the
Exactly.
thing right now is, you know, you mentioned, you know, you were asking the question of us about, you know, what has it done that, you know, how have we shifted our business since July of 2022?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is for me has been how I communicate to my clients. You know, the way, you know, the way that I'm explaining why, like, hey, yes, rising rates, that's not fun. But at the same time, let's look at the benefits of it. And there was an article that came out, and you might be able to pull, I think it was like CNBC came back out in August of 2022, where they interviewed 1,000 home buyers from 2021. It was like 72% of those people regret their purchases because they overpaid. They didn't get to do inspections, and all these things popped up after the fact, and they felt rushed. And so I saw that article, and I'm like, okay, this is like a month after all the things started to hit the fan. I'm like, all right, how can I cater the way that I communicate to my clients that can portray this? And I feel like I've done a very good job. The people that call in like, well, interest rates are really high. I was like, they've gone up, but historic average wise, we're still right in line. Obviously homes going up and prices, that kind of changes things a little bit, and the affordability might drop a little bit, but let's not focus so much on the rate as much as the payment, you know, because the rates are what the rates are.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always refinance. What goes up must come down. And you can always refinance when those rates drop. And it was just basically the way I communicated. And then also making sure that my team stood out above and beyond anybody else in the process that we have. And we get it through. I mean, we're getting stuff done in 2.5, 3 weeks, you know, where most people are still taking 30 to 45 days to close a loan. Like if I really needed to, I could probably push something through in 10 days.
Yeah.
You know, it's just doing that little bit extra, you know, refining our processes, because the great thing too is now that we've developed this process and the way that we work files through the system, when things pick back up, it's only going to make things easier for us to adjust and continue to do more and more deals, you know, and that's what we're looking forward to, because we're going to see a repeat of 2021 all over again this year as rates continue to drop, because you've got more people. I think it's this numbers for every 1% interest rates go up or down, 5 million people across the country are entering or leaving the market. And so we're already short on inventory, and we're going to remain short on inventory for a while. I think we're 5 years, maybe even longer below where we need to be. And, you know, it's only going to, as these rates drop, the competition is only going to be even more.
Yep. I
So-
recently saw something that showed like December 26th, 7th, whatever, until February 27th, 28th, or whatever it is right now, like the window that we're in,
It's the window.
the best time
Yeah,
you
for
could
sure.
possibly buy, because it's the slower season. Nobody wants to move in the winter.
100%.
All the other, the interest rates are higher right now, right? But if you buy in this window, as opposed to buying in the spring or the summer after the first or second or third rate, and I don't even follow this shit, right? But like, it makes so much sense because you're just it's gonna be that all over again. People are gonna be outbidding. People are gonna rush. They're gonna say, you better come in. No inspections, no contingencies. I don't care if there's a hole in the roof. If you want this house, make the offer.
I'd even take it back even further. I would say even like October, because you've got school has just gotten started. People are settled, in August and September, and then October hits. You're in the fourth quarter. You close in October. You're looking at being, or you go under contract in October. You're closing around the holidays in November and Thanksgiving, and then you got Christmas. So I would say even in like starting in October through the end of February is a great time to buy, because pretty much every deal that I closed in that time frame was either below sales price or had some sort of seller concessions covering closing costs. And that wasn't anything that we would see prior to. And people had multiple offers and paying more for a house than they were in that time frame, because not as many people, the homes are still out there to buy. There's just not as many people buying at that point. And that's usually when we see a shift to a buyer's market, is that fourth quarter of the end of the year and the beginning of the first quarter of the next year. And it's just kind of that rides that wave. And it's been like that ever since I've gotten in the business. And I always tell people, they always ask, well, when should I buy? I'm like, well, ask any real estate, the answer is always going to be yesterday. You should have always bought yesterday because of appreciation. But if you are looking for one of the best times of year, it's usually at the very beginning or the very end of the year was when you're going to get your best deals.
Right.
So,
we talked about it when we were telling the story of how I bought this house. Yeah. In was it December?
December of last?
Yeah, it was November.
November of last year.
November of last year. This was rates went up in July of 22, right? Yep. And then, everybody's rate lock expires, a couple months later. And then, houses end up sitting on the market. And this house sat on the market for, it was like 30 or 35 days. And, we hit them with a lowball offer and did some negotiation. We ended up getting this house for $50,000 less than what it was originally listed for. And
plus closing costs.
Plus closing costs. And that's the way to do it. Versus we wait until, spring this year and it turns into a beating frenzy again, where everybody's paying $20,000 to $50,000 over, waiving inspections and appraisal, and and then you're getting into a house just like you said, and you're probably having some sort of regret. So.
Absolutely, and I think we're gonna, and like I said, it's something that's gonna be coming full circle. Real estate's cyclical. You're gonna see trends and things come back around, and this is one of those. And it's not a fun one. You're people ask anybody that bought in 2021. Obviously we had COVID to deal with, so you're looking at 15-minute increments to view a home.
Sure.
And you're standing outside in line with a bunch of other people, but it may not have that aspect to it, but it's still going to be, you're going to be roaming through a house with, we had a client offer. There's 96 showings
this weekend. We just wrote an offer this morning.
Right.
Crazy.
It's starting. We're going to see it. Rates have dropped. We had another client, I think we mentioned on a previous episode, but we started the process end of October, early November. And from the time what we had them quoted at that time, obviously we're like, well, let's float and see what happens. And rates we got them locked in 1% less than what we were originally looking at in a month's time. And so we're going to continue to see that drop. And especially as the Fed starts cutting rates, it's just going to be crazy.
It's always evolving. Like you said, it's always cyclical.
Yep.
And I've been recently obsessed with, I'm rereading a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
I have not.
So whenever somebody sees or at least me, when I saw a 10X book, I was like, another Grant Cardone book,
right?
Another just fucking.
Is this a Grant Cardone book?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this is like.
I thought it might be.
The Grant Cardone is like volume, right? Just like more, do more, be more, have like 24 hours a day, round the clock, right? And just kind of suck it up from my experience. A lot of good principles for that, but this is more the idea of what are the things that I can do that can create exponential growth by taking away, right? So like the 80-20 rule, right?
Sure.
There's 80%, somewhere in your business, there's 80 or 90% coming from 10% or 20% of the input, right? Mm-hmm. The work that you're actually putting in. So it's the idea of continuously refining that. And so I'm curious, like in our world, obviously constantly evolving. You got to stay on your toes. You got to be innovating. Do you guys have anything that you're doing in 2024 like that's different than what you did in 2023 that you think has the opportunity to 10x your business? This podcast.
Fuck
yeah.
For sure.
Yes. And like I said, revamping social media for myself. I don't look at social media as a way to get business, but I lend credibility to who I am and my brand. But also, again, it's for me, it's pretty much the same. It's connections with agents and financial advisors and my past clients.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a big focus on past clients this year. I think I did, 20% of my business last year was from past client referrals, which was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to continue to grow that every year. And obviously the more people you close, the bigger that past client list gets and potential get more business from. But yeah, I mean, that's for me and it doesn't take a whole lot. Just basically using my CRM, record a quick video, shoot it out to my past clients every so often with a tip or a trick or anything like that.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that would be something that would bring in a lot of business, or at least people passing my name and
they talk about this in the book, right? Like in order to like 10x in this concept, you don't have to put out something that's 10 times better than everybody else.
No.
If you can just figure out a way to put out something that's 10 to 20% better and different than what other people are doing, that has the potential to 10x your business, because it's about increasing the quality, right? To, like I said, 10 or 20% to essentially increase the result by 10x.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What are some things that you're planning on doing this year to do that?
So we talked about like leading indicators, lagging indicators, and like my scorecards.
I'd love to see these scorecards, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I know you guys are Excel like Excel nerds too, or at least like to document like what it is that you're doing and look at trends, like figure out conversion rates and stuff like that, so that you know what work to put in.
KPIs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this year I'm social media for sure, right? And then it's rocks. It's this idea of rocks. So I'm awesome at like doing the day-to-day activities. And so when I think of like rocks versus like your leading indicator stuff, the leading indicator day-to-day stuff, linear growth, right? You continue towards this like upward trajectory. This rocks, on the other hand, is stuff that could potentially have exponential growth. But when you're doing it, it's the slingshot effect, right? So it feels like it's slowing your business down or even backtracking you for a minute. So this is just an example. One of my goals is to bring on 5 whale connectors this year, which is somebody that can produce 5 to 10 purchases for me in a single year. It's a great goal. The problem is I don't know what that person looks like. Like nobody knows what they look like. I don't know what the architect type looks like. So one of the things I have to do is create an SOP around like defining who that person is, where they are, building that list, right? My target approach, what value I'm going to bring to them, right? All these different things that I don't know how to do. And so the first iteration is probably going to suck and probably not going to net or yield any results. So to me, this is a rock, because if I do this, it's going to slow down my business. It's going to slow down the calls that I'm making, the texts that I'm making, the houses that I'm running, or whatever, any other thing that I could be doing to push my business forward. But once I do this and I have this defined and I find out where these people are, nobody in my company is doing this.
Right.
Like this is something that nobody else is doing. So once I do it, and then I do the second iteration and the third iteration and the fourth iteration, or however iterations I need by the end of the year, that's going to 10x my business, because I purchased, or I should say I got under contract 42 houses last year. So if I find somebody that can, 5 people that produce 5 to 10 of those, that's 25 to 50 deals.
Right.
That's doubling my business. Right. And then with that, it's going to be deals for years to come. And then on top of that, once I have that identified of who that archetype is to go after, I continually go after that 20% that's netting me majority of my results. So it's a very long-winded example, but like anything like rock related and making time, blocking time off, like an hour or two a day of that stuff that looks like it's going to pull me back in that day, but is hopefully going to traject me forward.
Well, that's something you and I can sit down and talk with, because we're going after the same people. And in terms of real estate agents and financial advisors and things like that. And I can, if you want to sit down and go over kind of how I go about the agents that I go after. I mean, it is a numbers game, obviously, and there's a lot of fallout within real estate agents. So how do you find who's going to be the ones that really benefit you? Now, obviously, I can go in and find out how many deals someone's closing on the buy side and be like, all right, well, obviously that's a good agent that I want to go after. But at the same time, figuring out which agents are the ones that are connected with wholesalers already, that you might be able to come in and do a better job as a new wholesaler for them to work with.
Right.
So if you want to get together after this or sit down, I'd be happy to. It's one of those things, because I'm constantly looking at and reviewing agents, and is this someone that I want to, and a lot, like you said, social media is, I'll look at them, and depending on how active they are and all that versus what I'm seeing their numbers are, if I can see a decline or a pattern year over year and what they're doing, I can kind of be like, you know what, they're doing it, but they're on the decline. That might not be somebody that I want or really want to touch base with. I want somebody that I can see their numbers are getting better and better and better, and go after, especially new agents, because there's always new ones coming into the business, and they all have that HGTV selling sunset mindset, like, oh, this is going to be easy, until they get smacked in the face and like, oh shit, 6 months in and you haven't done anything.
You haven't sold a deal.
And so those are the ones that I like to talk to, just because, we can sit down and have a conversation about, hey, these are the things that I've seen that have worked for people. Let's try that, and let's see if we can help you build your business that way, because now you've gotten with them from the ground up. And because I know that you like Jaden, I think you've connected with him and he's helped you on a couple deals.
I was just going to talk about Jaden.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's like Matt Dickens introduced me to Jaden. Jaden and I went out for coffee. We clicked, stayed in touch with him. He actually is the only agent that ever went out and found me a deal. So like he found a FSBO, for sale by owner, and brought me to the place. And anyway, we ended up doing that deal. But to me, he was a friend that was an agent that I was doing business with, but then his like career growth, like kid's fucking like mid-20s, and he just got a job as the team lead at Keller Williams Chesterfield. Keller Williams Chesterfield has about 350 agents, something like that. And the team lead, like for people that don't know, like the vernacular there, it's like the CEO of that office. You are
almost
in charge.
Like the broker.
Yep. Yeah. You are in charge. You're right under the broker. You are in charge of growing that office. You're in charge of both in terms of team members, right? But in terms of like the people and what they're producing. And it's like, to me, that's my number one whale right now. Right. Like that dude, me and him are boys, and we have been boys, and he knows, likes, and trusts me. And him and I like collab on like goal setting shit all the time. But it's like, he's in front of 350 agents. So it's like, that's what I'm talking about. Like the difference between the Grant Cardone go out and work 24 hours a day, and the like, hey, how do you find more people like Jaden, who is going to be connected with 350 agents and can produce an infinite amount of deals for you if you take care of him, his folks, and their clients. Yeah.
Jaden, I met Jaden like right after he got his license. I was connected to him through another realtor that I worked with. And he just took off. He joined a team, and that team already had their preferred lender that they were working with. But him and I still stayed in contact. We'll still shoot each other text messages every once in a while. I mean, he's a great guy, and I'm happy for him and what he's been able to do with his career and get to that point with Keller Williams Chesterfield. And I think he's going to do great things. It's how do you find more guys like that? That's what we have to ask ourselves, because that's the people, those are the people that we're going after. So,
Well, so there it is. You know what I mean? Like that's like the starting to form the, like I said, I keep saying the word archetype, whatever you like word you want to use, starting to form the profile of the person that is able to do that for you. Right.
I've got another person over there that I want to connect you with, that she's new, just like Jaden. She's go-getter, and she does now. This is her second year. She does coaching. Her and she got in.
Catherine
Wentz.
Yeah, stud,
She's awesome,
absolute stud. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to lunch with her probably like 3-4 weeks ago.
Okay,
unbelievable. She's 21.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
She's 21, and
insane.
she's a trainer.
Yeah, she's a real go-getter. Her and I connected on it, or my ex-wife connected Catherine with me, and we started networking together, and next thing you know, we've done a couple deals, and then she got into this doing the coaching, and basically as a 21-year-old is coaching agents out of that Chesterfield office on how to grow their business. And awesome. she's a real go-getter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. You guys are both into self-development, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely.
That's one way we can connect. So I've got an interesting question for you. If you could only read one book for the rest of your life, what would it be? So it's like you can read it as many times as you want. You can consume it in whatever fashion that you want, right? And I think we're all believers in like, you don't just read a book once if you like it, right? You study it. So if you could have one book to reference and read, only one for the rest of your life, what would it be?
48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene.
Really?
Yes.
That's been on my list for Robert Greene books in general have been on my list, and that's a good one.
Worth listening to the audiobook on YouTube for free because it's like reading a history book that teaches you Machiavellianism, and Robert Greene is one of the most monotone, dry-voiced people ever.
Yeah.
So if you like read his writing, you can get a little lost in the sauce. If you listen to him narrate it, it's beautiful, and you get way more out of it.
Really?
Absolutely.
And what is Machiavellian? What is that?
So when we think about like Machiavellian, it's like political strategy, courtiership, the ability to court attention and use misdirection. The book is about how not to be made a victim of Machiavellianism and how to point out these actors in the workplace, in entertainment. And if you want to use these kind of like tools and these laws against people, you can, but more importantly, it's about protecting yourself from those kinds of people.
And which one is it's the which one?
48 Laws of Power.
Okay. And he did an apprentice or not he did an apprenticeship. Ryan Holiday did an apprenticeship under him, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was and because he always references him, and I've read a couple of Ryan Holiday's books, and so he's on my list of reads.
Yeah, I'd read some Robert Greene.
Okay.
Right here. I say this because I have read it every year since I was a freshman in high school. This changed the way I approached baseball, but there's so many. I feel like baseball is one of the best sports to learn a lot of great life lessons because there's no other sport where you can be a Hall of Famer and fail 7 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. And so it teaches you how to get off your ass after failing and coming back up and to succeed. But this dives in the mental game of baseball. If you want it, you can have this copy. I coach a select team, and every team that I coach, I give every player on my team a copy of this to read, because this is a book that's changed my life. I've been through 4 copies of this. I had a copy when I was in high school, and every time I would read through it, I'd go through it with a different highlighter and it was cool just to see how at different points of my career and growth as a person, the different things that stuck out with me. And then I had another copy when I went to college. Same thing. I would read it in college and all through that. And then another one in pro ball. And it was just crazy. And I've read it so much that it would fall apart. And this was the most recent one that I got. My kids got a hold of it here. They're really excited about reading it and rip the cover. But I'll get you a copy of this. But this is hands down. I mean, this was like my Bible growing up, and I took this thing with me everywhere. I've read this thing or listened to it on podcast every year since I was a freshman in high school. So that's so freshmen were 15 years old.
Yeah. So
20 years of reading this book
and
every year.
And I do remember you telling me that when we grabbed coffee. Yeah. And I just want to say, I think it's awesome that you've read that so many times, because I'm a firm believer, although I'm not always the follower of it, right? I'm a firm believer that it's like you find a good book, you continually read that and you study that book until you have it down, highlight it, take notes, do whatever you can, like consume it so you can actually embody it and you can fully understand and grasp it. Like I said, we all get on these kicks of like, shiny object syndrome, like, oh, this new book or that new book or this person. But I love that you've read that. How many times do you think?
So 20 times now. I the last couple of years have been on podcast.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I give it to every kid that I coach.
Okay.
They have it. And so I started with them last year, and as freshmen, it's like their homework assignment. Like, This is going to make this is going to make you not just a better athlete and baseball player, but a better person moving forward because of the mental side. Like, that's why I'm so big. And I always ask the mentality, like, what's your mentality like when you do something like this? Because that is so important. And I've learned more from that book than anything else that I've ever read. And just, I highly recommend.
Yep.
I definitely have to check it out. I would say I've read it every year since I've been in real estate. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I feel like that's like the golden Bible for real estate people. I mean, I feel like everybody I've talked to or most real estate investors have read that book.
Yeah.
At least ones that I know. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've listened to Bigger Pockets for years, and that's one of the things I ask on there is, what's your favorite real estate book? And I feel like a lot of people say
get their start by reading that book.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, and then he's got other books, but I mean, I've read the original Rich Dad Poor Dad the last 4 years.
He's got like 18 iterations.
He does.
Rich Dad Poor
Right.
Dad.
Yeah.
I was just in Barnes and Noble,
there's a bunch of them.
and I looked, and it's like he has a shelf of like all the different
they're all
like
purple.
rich
Yeah.
something or another. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a reason.
Yeah, for sure. They're good.
There's 100%
I
reason.
really enjoy that book because it's like stories and like stories and real and lessons, and I just think it ties into really well. Have you read it?
So I've gotten most of the way through it. I know I've listened to it all the way through. I haven't read it though.
Yeah.
What about what's your book? I know you mentioned the 10X book.
Uh-huh.
What would be your book?
So it's funny. I wrote this down to ask you guys a question, and I don't have an answer right now. I didn't, but so I was looking through my audio, and like the first thing that stuck out to me, like gun to my head right now, would be 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
It's a good
Have you guys read that?
Yeah, I've read it.
I have not.
So
I've listened to it. So
it's a great book, and it's a cool book because you don't have to read it cover to cover. You can literally check out the table of contents and be like, what applies to me right now? I can go to that. I can just kind of take that in. So there's a lot of principles in there. But when we talk about Pareto principle, right, the 80% of the results are coming from 20% of the effort or some version of that. He's huge on that. And he's big on finding that, the 10X, right? He's big on finding that and cutting out the rest, then doubling down and finding more of that. And then he's also big on Parkinson's law, which is the idea time expands the space that you give it.
I'm going to wait till the last minute to do it.
Yes, 100%. If you're in college, we're in college, we probably are all the same way. We give an entire semester to do something. We're going to take that entire semester. If you give us 2 weeks to do it, we're going to figure out a way. You give us a day to do it. We'll figure out a way to do it.
All-nighters and Adderall.
Yes. Adderall and coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so those two concepts really stuck out to me. And it was almost like it's okay to be lazy in some respects, right? Like it is okay to want to take, and I'm a big fan of Andy Frisella, but obviously there's ways that he probably wouldn't, agree with this. I'm sure he would, but this idea of you don't have to take every path of least resistance, right? Like there are you don't have to take every path of most resistance.
Yeah.
yes,
Take the path of least resistance whenever it fits your life, right? And then take the other path whenever the fuck you need to. I really fucked that up. Hopefully we can cut that. But what I was getting at is it's okay to be lazy if it's places that aren't in your zone of genius, right? Like if you're not good in a specific area of your life, like the admin work, it doesn't make sense to spend all of your life doing admin work or taking a course on how to get better at doing your admin work, right? It's okay to outsource.
Right.
It's okay to free up your time. And so I think those two things, because I never had a strong work ethic growing up. I think as I've gotten older, I developed a strong work ethic because I found things that I'm actually passionate about and that I can see if I do this, it'll have this type of impact in my life. Now I have a stronger work ethic than ever, right? So I'm much more hey, let me take the time to put all my work into areas that I have some strengths in and not give a fuck about the shit that I'm not good at.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go back into Tim Ferriss's book, it's a great hey, how do you get the most out of your days? And it's okay if you only want to eventually work 10 hours a week or whatever that is. I think most guys like us would never be able to do that.
No,
because now we're developing more and more passion around what we do. It's like, this is fun. This job is like a game to me. So it's like, I want to continue doing this. I want to go on podcasts. I want to do whatever. But like the concept of like, I can set up a life to where I don't need to do anything, and everything else I do or kill or bring in is for sport. And I think that's a really cool concept.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
And it's almost like you'll get to that point where you're growing and growing, and you get so efficient at, and become an expert at what it is that you're doing that you might only need to work 10 hours a week. But guess what? Now that opens you up to add another venture. So like for us, you know, we've gotten very efficient at what we do and the teams that we have underneath us, that now we can add this, and now we can put 10 hours a week into this. Mm-hmm. And so essentially, you know, going back to what you're saying is, you know, for us, you don't think we could ever just not only work 10 hours. You're right. We couldn't, because we're going to add something new to the mix where we can spend another 10 hours a week growing and getting better at.
Right. Well, I think I heard a Jordan Peterson quote once that it was like, you know, what is retirement? Margaritas on a beach? Yeah. For how long? You know, like how long, how many days in a row can you sit, you know, on a beach and do nothing? Because it's like, I know me, about the second day, third day, I'm antsy. I got to do something. I don't, like I always tell, and Gina knows this, I don't vacation well. Like I just went to Florida, you know, 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, we're just sitting around not doing anything all day. Like, well, like, what do we do here? What's the, what
can I line up a showing or what?
Yeah. I was like, we got to do something, you know, like we're just going to, it was like a rainy day and we watched like 3 movies. I'm like, get me out of here, you know? Like,
I'm a firm believer that if you're not growing, that you're dying.
For sure. I think we said that. We literally said that exact thing. We're like a tree. We're not growing, we're dying. You know?
Yes. And I think that's why, like people that don't have a plan after retirement, right? When they hit that goal, like they can sit around and do nothing all day. It's like, I think that's the reason why you see a rapid decline in health. Like we're purpose, like whether, I don't care what your like religious or spiritual affiliations are. Like if you have a purpose, you have a reason to live. If your purpose was to get to a point of retirement and then you got to that point of retirement, you have no purpose anymore. Right. And I believe that, you know, mentally that can take a bigger toll on your physical health than people might assume.
A lot of people, sorry.
No, go ahead.
A lot of people try chasing their passion, and that's honestly where a lot of people mess up. It's from a Ryan Holiday book. I believe it's Ego is the Enemy. And he goes, the reason why people quote unquote burn out is because they're passionate about something the way that they're motivated about something. It spikes really quick and then it drops back down. Yep. When you're purpose driven, like being a father, for example, nothing stops you from fathering your kids. No. So a big piece of advice for people is stop chasing your passions and start chasing your purposes. And then one other thing, because Andy spoke on it quite a bit, and if there's someone in the room who's an Andy Frisella student, I'm him.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Andy will be the first person to tell you he's actually very lazy. Like, when they were starting the first stores that he was sleeping in the back of, they couldn't wait to play Call of Duty at night. And so the thing that allowed him to kind of develop that mindset is, how do I create a system in place so that I can get done what I need to get done, and then I don't have to feel bad about hanging out, you know, smoking a doob in my awesome garage where I have 50 really luxury supercars. And for him, it's, hey, find the 5 critical things you have to do every day that day. Yep. And then whatever you want to do for the rest of the day is your business. And I just got to say, when my day's over, everyone knows what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No shit. And I fucking love that, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I just had a conversation with my business coach back. It was when the Powerball reached like $1 billion. And so he's like, so, you know, I think it was like, hey, we're getting ready for fourth quarter. What are your business plans? I go, I'm going to win the Powerball. I'm not, that's my business plan. And he's just joking with him. He goes, well, if you do, is that going to make you more busy or less busy? And I said, probably more, because I know what, if I had that kind of money, what all I would want, like I would be starting so many different businesses and doing different things that
for sure
I would get more busy than I would, like you talked about, like I don't, retirement, like, yeah, it sounds great, but I feel like after a day, I'm like, all right, let's go back to fucking work.
I'm pretty sure my real estate license will be active until the day I die.
Oh yeah. I mean, same thing here.
Look at my grandma. She's 83, you know, still licensed agent. You know,
my mom did this until she was 67 years old. Yeah. And, you know, it's just one of those things. It gets to the point, like my business partner, he's built a team now that if he wanted to, he could essentially retire, just keep his license and keep his name on everything. And we could still close, like he would just pass everything off to us and we get it taken care of. And he'd still be sitting back collecting a paycheck and he could do whatever the hell he wants at that point. And, you know, that's ultimately where I want to get to, is get to that point where I've got a team And I've done this and I've developed so many connections that the business is just coming in that I can venture off into other aspects of things that I want to do. You know, I want to get into the real estate investing. There was plans for that, but things happen. And you know, I would like to do that and get into that, and flipping homes. That was something that I was always considering, and he does that. You know, he's got his business on this, but he also has investments and flipping and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I think would just better suit. I guess that's more of an athlete mindset that we have,
right?
That we're not ever gonna stop working.
Yeah,
getting better.
Well, and I think I think like a lot of people do get rich and get wealthy through real estate, and I think to me, just the concept, no matter what avenue that you do it through, the concept of getting to a point where I do not have to work.
Right.
Like getting to that point, to me, it's a goal. It's a goal of all of ours at some capacity, but is like, I feel like that's when you would really start to get dangerous. Right.
Right.
Because if you don't have to work and all you can do is things that are purely for sport, right? The sky's the fucking limit.
Right.
There's no pressure of like, I got to fucking put food on the table. We're all 100% commission professionals or business owners.
Right.
They're also 100% commission professional, right?
Right.
It's like, there's no more of that. So it's like, I feel like once I hit that point, and you guys might be the same, it's like, that's when shit's really going to get dangerous, because I'm only going to do things that I like, but I'm going to put this work ethic into getting better. It's not going to be easy because I like it, right? There's going to be times that are difficult, but like, that I feel like is the time that's going to be the most fun. And that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah. Having that, that comfortability of just knowing like, hey, I'm set.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've always said, like, once I can get my real estate investments, like, or, you know, and I'm making at least enough to cover like my monthly expenses, like that's just going to be a huge milestone for me. And then, you know, after that, you know, the real estate sales are just the cherry or icing on the cake.
When do you have a goal to do that by?
I don't know. I said like 5 years, 2 years ago. So, I mean, I could stay on that trajectory in the next 3 years, hit that goal, which I think is definitely attainable.
That'd be sick. Do it by 33.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Be awesome.
And we could definitely do that. I mean, it's doable. You know, people have done it in less time. So, you know, it's not like my monthly bills are that crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I keep going back to it, but like this idea of like the 10X stuff is like, and I talked about this the other day in a social media post, or wrote about it. It's not becoming a millionaire that's the goal, right? It is, but it's not about becoming the millionaire. It's about becoming the person who can make $1 million, right? It's not about financial freedom. It's about becoming the person who is financially free. Like, and so in order to like, by setting these wild and 10X goals, it's like, okay, like what do I have to do to become that person? What do I have to get rid of? What do I have to add? What do I have to improve? And constantly auditing that, right, gets you there. Right. Like it's foolproof, right? And not when it's going to happen, but if you consistently follow the simple but not easy playbook, it's like financial freedom is going to happen for every single one of us. And I believe it is, especially to guys like us, because it's just like there's this constant need for growth and improvement.
Right. Oh,
Go ahead.
Oh, I could totally relate that to jiu-jitsu, because like I remember when I first got started in that, and you know, you're the white belt, you're the new guy in the gym, you're the ones getting kind of beat up on, but I remember like thinking like, oh, I just can't wait till I'm a blue belt. But looking back on it now, a couple of years later, I'm like, if I would have just been given a blue belt, then I would have just been that blue belt that's an easy round for everybody, or you know, I didn't deserve it.
Yep.
And you never want to get something that you don't deserve. Like if you were all of a sudden, you know, a millionaire now, like you might not be at that level to handle that kind of stuff right now. So
majority of Powerball winners are broke.
Exactly. So it's like you gotta become that person. Exactly what you said. So I just wanted to saw a way to throw jiu-jitsu in there. So I did. Yeah.
Is this like do we win an award for the longest time in a podcast Zach hasn't talked about jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, that might be the longest.
Yeah.
That's probably the longest.
Probably the longest one yet. Yeah. So, but no, I want to go back. You were talking about being the person. And I think it's Atomic Habits, James Clear mentioned it, where it's like visualize yourself in that persona, or like what is like, if you're going to be successful, envision, like create a persona, like what a successful person is to you, and put that costume on and be that person. And you know, it just touches on like what you were saying. I just think it's the mentality and the mindset. You have to visualize yourself as that person to be that person.
Yep.
And you keep doing it over and over again. Eventually you'll be that person.
Yep. And it's
manifesting.
And it's like you said, it's not just visualizing having it.
Right.
It's like, well, what would the day-to-day of a person that has that stuff and does that stuff look like?
Right.
Yeah. Start doing those things.
Yep.
Exactly.
You've got
Be
to
that
embody
person
the
today.
character
Yeah.
and the habits and
Everything.
and all that.
Yeah. Cause it's not just the mindset. It's being able to do the things that need to be done to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think being an athlete, all of us being athletes have that. You do jujitsu. That's an athletic.
I am like the most
all
inconsistent
right.
person ever.
That's all right. But yeah, I mean, it's just having that athlete mindset. You know, it's always, like you said, growing or dying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's an hour. I feel like we could keep talking for.
I know we
you
could
for
continue to
forever,
keep going.
but,
Shit, we
we'll
didn't
definitely have
even
him
get
on.
to hear about sand volleyball.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
But next time.
Next
Yeah.
time. Well, I
Yeah,
feel like
so-
this won't be the last time Matt's on. So
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I guess that's. Is there anything you want to plug or anything
Yeah.
before we get off the air?
No, this is awesome. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on,
Yeah.
tell my story. It's good to chop it up with you guys. It's
absolutely.
Always
it's
good to see you.
awesome. Like I said, this is the power of networking for me. I get opportunities to, talk with you guys and potentially do business, but also just like make friends. Like
Right.
Sure.
real estate is the world that it's the intersection between two things I'm passionate about. It's the self-development side and the relationship building.
Mhm.
And it's because of that relationship building that we get to do shit like this. And we're still relatively young in our career. So
Sure.
excited to be back on in the future.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the episode.